I think all along we have considered global warming to be a potential threat. We were one of the first organizations in Canada, environmental organizations, to note it as a potential threat. And there are people in our organization who still think that it may be a potential, and I think that there's a possibility that it's a potential threat. It's just that the evidence hasn't been there, and in part, it's the way dissenters are being treated, and it reminded me of the way scientists who dissented from the nuclear conventional wisdom. Our organization does not like nuclear power. We're opposed to nuclear power. And in the 70s, late 70s, there was pretty well a unanimous view that nuclear power was safe, clean, cheap, inevitable, and anyone who spoke out against it was castigated. Scientists were castigated. We remember that period. We spoke out against it at the time. We came to realize that nuclear power was just not economic and not likely to become economic. But the treatment that scientists suffered at the hands of those who wouldn't tolerate any dissent always offended us. And it seems as if the same thing is happening now.
Naomi Oreskes is a professor of the history of science at the University of California in San Diego, and supposedly a serious scholar. She has published and still maintains that there is not only consensus, but there is no disagreement whatsoever with the view of the IPCC that global warming is human-caused. How do you explain this phenomenon on the part of a supposed scholar who presumably should have access to the same information that we all do? Maybe she's even read your book.
Well, I don't know her. I haven't. I actually have been involved with her page on Wikipedia, because her page on Wikipedia seemed so outrageous. Several weeks ago, I tried to make corrections to it, and also I tried to make corrections to slanderous comments that were made about Benny Peiser, who has a newsletter. He's a scientist who has a newsletter on climate change. And that has become quite a saga, because no sooner did I make a change. Wikipedia, as you all know, is this citizen-managed encyclopedia that in fact has enormous reach. I've seen statistics showing that the majority of high school kids, for example, rely on Wikipedia for their research. So it's an important way of disseminating information. So I decided to make changes to the Wikipedia page to correct the record dealing with Benny Peiser and also dealing with Naomi Oreskes, because her study was described as being uncontroversial. And no sooner did I make the change than it got reversed. And I thought I forgot to save it. I made the change again, it got reversed. And this went on 28 times. And I wrote about it in my column in the National Post. And there's been a large reaction, but I have since heard from quite a few people. And Wikipedia is in effect, it's patrolled by zealots who make sure that any scientist who is on the wrong side of the debate is slandered. I'm quite sure that you do not come across well on the Wikipedia page, not having looked at it. I happened to check CEI's Wikipedia page, and it seems that all you're interested in is taking money from oil companies and tobacco companies.
Microphone, if you have a follow-up.
This is a follow-up. I think you're quite correct about Wikipedia. There is somebody or some people whose business it is to smear any of us who are skeptical about anthropogenic global warming. In my case, I'm being accused of all kinds of nefarious schemes and connections, and also some really bizarre things on my Wikipedia biography. Apparently it says, I believe that the moons of Mars were constructed by Martians. But it really is kind of trying to paint me out as a wacko.
Yes. I plan to ask you about that because...
No, I don't believe the moons of Mars were made by Martians. And I don't know who put this on there. And I'd like to know, how do I correct the record?
You cannot correct it.
Say again?
You cannot correct the record.
I cannot?
You cannot correct. I have heard from, since that article that I wrote on Wikipedia, it has been picked up by almost 10,000 blogs. And I have heard from many, many scientists with stories of their attempts to change their page, to get rid of slander, and utter failure, because it's not just one person. There's an organized, systematic campaign to... We don't know if it's well-funded. We don't know if it's... they claim it's volunteer, entirely run by volunteers. Some of the emails indicate that may not be the case, and I'll be investigating that. But there's no question that it may be the world's single biggest source of misinformation.
Yeah, but this is really bizarre, you know, to be accused of Martians constructing an artificial moon. You know. Well, anyway.
Let's move on.